In this video, I want to talk about what is a self-bank and the way a self-bank functions. Now, when I first came up with this paradigm, this model, my word was soul bank. However, in our culture, soul is somewhat nebulous. It doesn't necessarily include heart, mind, body, money. So a self-bank is a place where you make a deposit. Now, when you put your money in a bank, you want your money to be safe. You want it to be accessible, and you also want it to appreciate in value. Now, there was a time when interest rates were, somewhat reasonable, and there was a lot of appreciation of value. But that's an ideal bank. It's safe, and what you get back is what you put in an improved fashion. There's more of it. There's a higher quality of it. So a self-bank or a soul bank is you put yourself into a container. You put a certain amount of your time, a certain amount of your money, a certain amount of your emotion, a certain amount of your thoughts into a container. And the goal is, why you're doing that, is that you want to retrieve a self that is nourished, that is richer, that is stronger than the self that you put in. You're making a deposit so that later you can retrieve something that's more valuable than you put in, and that's a self-bank. So, what is a good yield? The goal is to retrieve something that's higher quality, something that's more valuable than what? Well, then the container of your cult or culture. We all exist in a container, the container of our identity, our pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. The container of our cult or culture, the memes, the routines. And we give our culture money, time, emotion, attention. We put our consciousness, our body, into the protocol, into the bank of our culture. But in a low intensity or a low intelligence culture, what we get back is often degraded. We bring our enthusiasm into the cult or culture as children, and the culture gives us back a jaded, a more cynical adolescent or grown-up. We give our curiosity, and we learn relatively dry ways of doing things. We give our trust, and often the trust is broken. In low intelligent cultures, what we give back is less than what we gave. So a self-bank is about reconnecting with self, different from identity, right? The essence of who we are that transcends our pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. And what we want to get back is something closer, more authentic to what we are, to who we are, than the self that we deposited in the self-bank. So I want to talk a little bit about a good yield. Like if you deposit yourself in a self-bank, what's a good yield? Well, it partly depends on the symmetries or asymmetries with which you arrive. If you arrive with lots of money and lots of dissociation and lots of cynicism, etc., it's not as relevant or important that you retrieve more money than you deposited. Right? You may want to move, right? The value would be to transmute some of your anxiety, some of your PTSD, some of your money into soulful presence, right? If you arrive in an asymmetrical state where your presence, your existence, has created a lot of ecological imbalance. You have money, but you have a trail of pollution in your wake. It may be to balance that, right? To plant 1,000 trees and become carbon neutral as an individual. So one purpose, one useful purpose for a bank is to take something we have a lot of. I have a lot of time, I don't have any money. I have a lot of money, I don't have any time. To take something we have a lot of and transmute it into the areas that we are scarce. But the players, right, the stakeholders in our reality are our body, our heart, our mind, our relationships with other human beings and their heart, their mind, their body, the ecology out of which we all emerge, right? Our income, our money, our investments are also a stakeholder. Our talents, our abilities, how much we know our gifts and how competently we're able to bring those out into the world. So in an ideal world, in a generic fashion, you show up with a certain amount of money, a certain amount of time, a certain amount of talent, a body, a heart, and a mind, and the goal of forming a more intelligent, meaning a more efficient and sustainable relationship, a relationship of sustainable well-being with yourself, others, money, your ecology, your heart, mind, and body, right? So a bank takes what you deposit and deploys that more efficiently, more intelligently. Then you might deploy that on your own, right? Because you've been managing your time, your money, your attention, your heart, mind, and body. Your culture or cult has been managing your heart, mind, body, your presence, your consciousness, right? And the question is, can you get higher yields relative to your starting point? And that's not a guarantee. No investment has a guaranteed result, but there is a probability field. Now, in some ways, the lower you and your culture's competence, the higher the probability that putting yourself into a self-bank is going to be an improvement, right? It's quite possible that you're an individual that manages your heart, your mind, your body, your time, your talent, your money more efficiently, meaning you generate more sustainable well-being for you, your ecology, and other people than you would depositing it with a self-bank, right? And so you should keep your assets, your energy, invested in that protocol, right? There's a small percentage of people that do an incredibly good job at managing energy, at investing that energy in the production of sustainable well-being. Right? And there's also a good chunk of people that do a terrible job. It could easily see a 10x increase in yield. Some could see a 3x in yield, right? But that's a conversation. But the question for an ethical self-bank and yourself is, are my yields going to be higher depositing this energy in this self-bank than any other option available to me? Now, in the abstract, the answer is always no. There's always a better approach. But in the concrete, can you think of one? Do you have a better approach? If you do, do it, right? If I think you have a better approach available to you, then I'm going to say do it. If I don't know whether you have a better approach, but I'm doubtful that I can take what you give me and return it to you in better shape, I'm not going to take it, right? The job of a self-bank is to receive a self and give you back a self that is more intelligent, meaning to give you back a self, an identity, an awareness, a set of assets, time, money, natural resources, that generates sustainable well-being more efficiently than the self that was given, that was deposited in the bank, right? And what'd be really exciting is a 5 to 20-fold increase, a 500% more efficient self at converting energy, time, money, and natural resources into sustainable well-being. So that's what I most want to see. Do we have a high probability of getting a high yield? Now that partly is determined by the terms of the deposit, right? When you deposit money in a bank, for example, you can have a relationship where you can withdraw the money minutes later. Here's $10,000. I've changed my mind. I want it back again, right? Now, that doesn't take a lot of energy for a bank. It takes a few minutes with a teller and another few minutes with a teller, and that's it, or an automatic vending machine. People are more complicated. So the term isn't as flexible, right? There's a certain amount of energy in deciding whether or not the bank can do something intelligent with your deposit. And so I would say the minimum deposit, and every self-bank is different, but the minimum deposit is a week. And there are higher yields, higher probabilities if the deposit is more than a year. Now, in a normal bank, if you buy a CD for a year or more, you get a better interest rate, right? Because they can do something more useful with that money if they've got time. Well, we can do something more useful with you if we have time to find the secret passages, find the blocks, find the hidden talents, put them to use, right? There's a self-awareness cost in refining, in optimizing an investment of time, money, and natural resources. And once you optimize that, right, then the longer you function in that optimal state, the more time you have to repay that investment, that initial cost of time and attention, right? So it takes less skill, and the odds are higher that you can get high yields in a year. And a good self-bank can take people in different shape, right? Take someone traumatically dysfunctional, but who's willing and able to invest a certain amount of time every day in working through that trauma, in asking for help and getting support, and can leave the bank 1, 2, 5 years later in a 1,000% more competent state, more connected with self, more connected. What does it mean, by the way, to connect with self? Because many of us are very dissociated from ourselves. It means to be present, means to be grateful, means to be enthusiastic, filled with the divine. Means to have energy, means to be excited about where we're going, about the future. Means to feel love and to feel loved. Means to feel connected with all that is. Be excited to grow, to be excited to serve. The identity, the pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being that is the egoic microcosm of the cult or culture, may be any number of things. But the self, that opening to something more than the identity. The greatest joy is to heal, is to serve. Greatest sense of meaning to be part of something bigger than ourselves, to reconnect with the totality of what is, to bring our gift into the world. Right? That's a healthy self, a self that some of us have never met and do not know that we do not know this. Right? So, what I'm doing with the Costa Rican project is creating a container that has the capacity to synergize in ways that I haven't seen happening in other parts of the world and other locations. That's uniquely designed to hold space for certain parts of the self to blossom, both in me and in you, a reconnection with self, a reconnection with gratitude, with service, with love, with all that is. Learning the art of blessing, the art of investing in sustainable ecology, the art of touching other people, learning the art of connecting with ourself. And when you have that priceless gift of meeting yourself, perhaps for the first time, of learning the footwork, the discipline, the art of moving through your reality in a way that blesses, that touches the earth, those you love, your own soul, your own spirit, touches that, fills your body with a sense of beauty and peace. Well, You're ready then to make a withdrawal. You're ready then to take that and either continue doing work within the community or to bring that in your own way out into the world.